My friendy eye, and welcome back to my channel. My name's CaitlinAnwyn for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And today I'm building a Binturong Habitat, and as you can probably tell, I am not doing face cam today. I've had like really bad migraines. I am in no state to have my giant ring lights on at the moment, so we're gonna have a chill no face cam build today. And my idea for the Binturong habitat was to do a treehouse because the Binturongs like climbing. I thought it would be nice to put their habitat into this part of the Cophaga Park map because they would have the ability to climb up and down those levels as well. And what I am attempting to do at the moment is to do a circular path to go around the tree for the treehouse, so the guests can walk underneath the treehouse and kind of see the Binturong climbing up, like right next to them, up into the treehouse. So my theme for this whole zoo is the cherry blossom trees, the Balayong. And I wanted to stick with like the curviness that I'd been doing around the zoo and build a round treehouse instead of a squared one. This probably made my life a lot harder, but it fit in really nicely with the shape of the path underneath as well. And I wanted this to look like it was built out of logs and quite natural looking. I just built something that looked quite man-made. You can see it in the background, my princess castle for the princess piggies. I will put a link to that video up in the iCards if you haven't seen it yet. I had a lot of fun building that princess castle, the fairy tale castle. But I thought I'd mix it up a little bit and do something that looks quite natural but still kind of man-made. Like, we're not gonna just find tree houses in the wild. I'm kind of planning on just keeping this zoo closed until we've filled the whole zoo in and having kind of like a grand opening. In like real zoos, you wouldn't really get like a half empty zoo once it's open. They would probably end up filling up most of the zoo before they have an opening, right? Like, you wouldn't go to a grand opening of a zoo and there'd be like 2 animals in there. So I think that's kind of like my excuse of why I don't want to open the park or open the zoo. And it also improves performance. Guests just cause the game to lag, so I'll just keep it closed for now. But I actually got Planet Coaster in a developer sale on Steam a couple of weeks ago. I haven't really had a look at much at the game. I've watched other people play it. It's kind of why I wanted Planet Zoo, because I really liked Planet Coaster, like watching Planet Coaster. So you have to let me know whether you would be interested in me having a look at Planet Coaster. I know they have career scenarios, which is pretty cool, because I've like completed all of the career scenarios in Planet Zoo now, and I really enjoy doing that. And Planet Coaster is an older game, so I'm hoping that'll actually run a little bit better on my PC too and allow me to record easier. So I'm kind of interested to know, like, I know Planet Coaster is kind of an older game now, but I've played older games on my channel. Like, I play The Sims, and that is like, I think older than Planet Coaster, I'm not sure. So let me know whether you'd be interested in seeing me build some roller coasters instead of building some zoos. I wouldn't obviously stop playing Planet Zoo. I'd still carry on doing building and stuff, but I wouldn't mind playing some Planet Coaster in between building in Planet Zoo. And I'm gonna try and cut out as much as I can of me checking the traversable area, because I think it's gonna start getting really frustrating going into that like white mode. I don't really like how that looks. I think that's part of why I started getting a headache, because that white and blue mode for the traversable area is like super bright, even though I keep my monitor screens quite dimmed. And I also have tinted glasses to help with that. I don't wear glasses on camera because I don't like the way the ring lights reflect on them. But yeah, I do have tinted glasses, which helps a lot, but that white screen is super white, and it's kind of probably why my head started being really bad. I found that my first ramp did not work, and I quite liked the pattern that I had made with the really thin logs, so I thought I would continue using those and kind of put it into like a diamond pattern. But with like all the angles that you need to place these things at, it's really difficult to place things accurately. But I found that the Binturong can actually walk up and down the logs quite easily, but they don't like the ramps as much. But while I'm trying to figure out the Binturong habitat, I thought I would ask what animal habitat we should build next. I was planning on doing a transport ride to get around this zoo. I figured there's quite a lot of walking and stuff around, so I thought a transport ride would be pretty good for this map as well. Because of like my whole headache thing, I won't talk about it too much. I've kind of not been able to build in the last few days. It's a lot easier just to watch and chat than build because I have to concentrate quite a lot on building. So I thought it would be okay to make this video, but I'm not really sure when I'm going to be able to build again because that takes quite a lot of concentration. But when I can get back into building, because I'm so bored, what animal habitat should we build next? And I wanted to change around the support beams for the treehouse itself. I didn't like the way that it was kind of just blocking the pathway. I didn't want it to be really precise. I kind of wanted to make it look homemade. I've never actually had a tree house of my own. My trees in my garden are not big enough for a tree house, but yeah, what a childhood dream. I'm an only child as well, so I think if I did have a tree house, I think my mum would have lost me for a long time. I would have just been sat up there reading. Oh, my childhood sounds sad. I'm sorry. That's definitely what I would have been doing though. I would have just been sat reading a book, chilling in my little tree house until a spider came, and then I probably would have ran and got my mum. So I wanted a nice log roof, and I didn't like the look of the roof pieces that are included, so instead I used the climbing logs and used my fun little round trick that I've been enjoying using. If you put two objects opposite each other at the same distance, you can then use the advanced move tool with X and rotate them to create a nice circle. So that's what I did for the roof, and I angled two different pieces so it wouldn't be like a straight up and down roof. It's got a little bit more of a domed look to it. I thought that was nice. And I also wanted to add a little window for the Binturong. The view out of the back of the treehouse is absolutely beautiful with those mountains in the background, and I just thought it would be nice for the Binturong to be able to like climb up into this area and look over to the other animal habitats. With their long whiskers, they kind of remind me of cats. So I just imagine like a cat sat at a windowsill looking over and watching all of the different animals move around and stuff. So that was my plan for this. There's a lot of experimenting going on in this treehouse build. So I wanted to use like ropes to make it more like, how would you imagine like a playground sort of climbing area? I wanted to make like that netted rope, but obviously still make it small enough for the Binturong to actually be able to climb up it. So I used the pattern of the path that I've been using and followed like that square pattern to build like a accurate square. Like, so it was all spaced out quite nicely and it fit in with like that colourful pattern on the pathway, and then I used that to allow the Binturong to climb up higher in the treehouse. So I've started putting it on the like kind of left hand side as you're like looking straight into the treehouse. I wanted them just to be able to climb up bits, so I thought I'd put like a net, a rope for them to climb up higher into the treehouse. I just wanted to give them extra climbing things. I knew they needed quite a lot of climbing space. I thought it'd be nice to build a little windowsill out of the climbing squares, those little logs around the window, and so they could like climb up there and look out of the nice little window. I've even coloured it pink so it matches with the rest of the zoo. And I will skip past me trying to figure out how to get them to climb up onto this windowsill and show you how I actually managed to do it. So to start with, I carried on with that circular technique, but I wanted to make kind of like a stepway area or like a stairway area up into the windowsill part. It didn't quite go low enough and they still couldn't quite get up onto that area. I really thought they would have been able to, but I knew for certain they could climb up the little rope net that I'd made on the other side. So I thought that might be a good way to get them to be able to climb up the stairway area. And I'm going to leave this bit in so you can see. I did actually manage to get them to be able to climb all the way up to the windowsill, but they would only climb across 2 of the planks, up 2 of those little square log things. I have no idea why, because they're all kind of placed exactly the same, but they could climb up it. That'll do. They can look out the window. I thought I'd make a ladder for them to climb from the top of their habitat down into underneath the path. I wasn't really sure whether they could climb up vertical slopes or not, or like vertical logs, so I put it up like at an angle at first, and because there's like a gap between the terrain and the barrier, the binturong couldn't actually get to the ladder, so I had to put like a piece of that like climbing stuff, and that actually allowed the binturong to climb up and down the barriers because there was like a part that bridged between the gap of the terrain and the barrier itself. The ladder is definitely not as interesting to look at as the thing that I'd built in the first place, and you'll have to let me know whether you actually like that bit more than the ladder, but it saved a bit of room on that like bottom part of the habitat because the pathway is blocking off most of it. And the binturong like quite a lot of coverage for their habitat, and because they've got a lot of land space up on that top bit, they needed quite a lot of different trees, and I was so happy to find out that the binturong actually like cherry blossom trees. So I put a couple of them in there, and the binturong can actually climb up the trees, which is pretty cool. I will put that on the end as like a nice little pretties at the end. I like showing off the animals walking around the habitat. And by the time I got to this point, they needed a little bit more climbing, and I was so fed up of trying to figure out what they could climb up and what they couldn't. They've really frustrated me. Like, I do not understand these animals whatsoever. Well, what they can climb and what they can't. So I used a couple of the blueprints and I kind of twisted them around these holly bushes. I think they're supposed to be holly trees, but I lowered them so they're now holly bushes. And I twisted the climbable items in and around those bushes to kind of link everything together, so it wasn't like just a random clump of holly. And it took a little bit of time, and I had a little think about this treehouse, and it wasn't colourful enough for me. I wanted to add in a bit of pink and just break up all of that like wooden colour and texture from the treehouse. And I think the wisteria trees looked really nice hanging over the entranceway of the treehouse. And I also added in some wisteria around the rounded path underneath the treehouse, just to tie it in a little bit with the treehouse itself, so it's not kind of like a standalone thing. It's kind of growing around both rounded areas, and to break up a little bit more of that wooden texture as well, I thought I would add in a little bit more of a pop of green with the ivy around the balcony area. That's what I'm going to call this, like a nice round balcony. It just gives that little bit extra green in there, and that'll hang down for the guests to see as well. And I added the little Binturong sign on the top of the treehouse, kind of like how I added the Barbarossa sign to the castle, as in like this is the little Binturong treehouse. And I did mention in the Barbarossa habitat that I hadn't put animal talk for that habitat, but I did want to put one in for the Binturong. On either side of the habitat, the educator can actually throw food in, so that will encourage the Binturong to come up into that area as well. I used the same thing that I used for the Malayan tapirs, but I took the tapir sign off it and added some Binturong signs. I know they're not cherry blossoms, but I added a pink flower in. It could be a cherry blossom, you never know. Just so add in those little flowers, tie it in with the tree house, and up the scenery rating of the education. And I think they're both 100% now. That's pretty much it though. So let me know what you think of this tree house for the Binturong. And let me know which animal you would like me to build a habitat for next. We have the sun bear, the proboscis monkey, the clouded leopard, and the giant leaf insect to do. And also let me know if you'd like me to do a playthrough of Planet Coaster. I know it's an old game, but it's a bit of fun because I've never played it before, so it's still like a first time for me. But if not, I might just play that for fun on my own. I just thought it might break up the videos a little bit, so we're not doing speed builds twice a week. We are doing some playthroughs as well, and that game's a little bit less heavy for my PC to handle. Recommended specifications are quite high for Planet Zoo, but Planet Coaster they are lower, so it might be a bit easier for me to play, especially with the Sims content being so dry at the moment. You probably can tell that a lot of people on YouTube who normally play The Sims are playing other games. So let me know, and if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!